It was a bright Sunday morning in early spring. The sky looked soft and blue, and the air was cool and fresh. I woke up early because Sundays were my favorite days. Every Sunday, my best friend Tom and I went for a walk in the park. We had done this since we were 10 years old. Now we were 13, and it was a small thing that still made me happy. Usually, Tom came at 10 o'clock. I liked that. I had time to eat breakfast, brush my hair, and choose what to wear. I never wore anything fancy, but I always wanted to look nice for our walks. I didn't know why, but I did. That morning, I was still brushing my hair when I heard a knock on the door. I looked at the clock. It was only 9. I walked to the door and opened it. "Tom, you're early," I said. He smiled. "Good morning. Happy Sunday." I looked at him. He was wearing a new blue t-shirt and his usual sneakers. His hair was a little messy. He looked happy, but also a bit nervous. "You're 1 hour early," I said. "I'm not ready yet." "You don't need to be ready for a walk," he said. "What do you mean?" I asked, surprised. "I came to visit you at home," he said with a small smile. "Just let me in, and the rest you can imagine." I laughed softly. "You sound strange today." But I opened the door wider, and he came in. Tom had never come inside my house before. He usually waited outside while I got my jacket. My parents were not home that day. They went to visit my aunt in another town. The house was quiet. I felt a little shy, even though Tom was my best friend. He looked around the living room. "Your house feels nice," he said. "It's warm." "Thank you," I said, trying to sound calm. "Do you want something to drink?" "Maybe some water," he said. I went to the kitchen and poured 2 glasses. When I came back, he was looking at the photos on the wall. There was one of me as a baby and another of me with my parents on a beach. "You look so small in this one," he said, smiling. "That was when I was 6, I said. "We went to the seaside that summer." He smiled again. "You looked happy." I gave him the glass. "You came early, Tom. Is everything okay?" He took a sip of water and looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "It's my birthday today." I opened my eyes wide. "Oh no! I forgot!" He laughed. "It's fine. I didn't tell you on purpose. I wanted to see if you would remember." I felt bad. "You turned 13 today, right?" "Yes," he said proudly. "Well, happy birthday," I said. "I should have bought you something." "You don't need to buy me anything," he said softly. "I just wanted to see you." I didn't know what to say. For a moment, I looked at the floor. My heart felt warm, but also a bit confused. We were friends, but his eyes looked different that morning. He put his glass down. "Can I see your backyard?" he asked. "Sure," I said. We walked outside. The grass was still wet from the morning dew. The garden was small but full of flowers. My mother liked to plant pink and yellow ones every spring. Tom looked around with interest. "It's nice here," he said. "It feels calm." We stood there for a while. I could hear birds singing from the trees. The air smelled like fresh grass. Tom turned to me. Do you remember the first time we went to the park? Of course, I said. We were 10. You fell into the pond because you wanted to catch a frog. He laughed loudly. Yes, and you screamed so loud that the ducks flew away. I smiled. That was funny. I liked that day, he said. You were the first person who didn't laugh at me. I did laugh, I said, giggling. But I helped you out of the pond, so that makes it fine. Tom looked at me again. His face turned serious. Liz, he said quietly, you are my best friend. You know that, right? Of course, I said. You're mine too. He took a small step closer. But sometimes I think maybe it's more than friendship. I froze. I didn't expect that. I looked at him, unsure what to say. He looked down and said, Forget it. It's just, I feel happy when I'm with you. That's all. I stayed quiet for a few seconds. My heart was beating faster, but I didn't want him to see that. I tried to smile. That's nice, Tom. I'm happy when I'm with you too. He looked at me again, but this time his eyes looked softer. Then it's okay, he said. I just wanted you to know. We stood there in silence for a moment. Then he said, Let's go to the park now. Okay, I said, still thinking about his words. We started walking. The park was only 10 minutes away. The path was quiet except for the sound of our steps. When we reached the gate, I saw families walking with small children and people jogging. The trees were full of green leaves. The sun made small lights on the path. We followed our usual route near the pond. The water was calm, and some ducks swam near the edge. Tom picked up a small stick and drew a line in the sand. 13 feels strange, he said. I don't feel different, but everyone keeps asking how it feels to be older. I laughed. Maybe you'll feel older tomorrow. He smiled. Maybe, or maybe not. We walked for a long time. We talked about school, games, and movies. Then Tom stopped walking. He looked at the big oak tree near the pond and said, Do you know what I wished for when I blew my candles this morning? No, I said. What did you wish for? He looked at me and smiled softly. I wished for more Sundays with you. I felt quiet again. His words stayed in my head. I wanted to say something kind, but I couldn't find the right words, so I just smiled back. The park was quiet that morning. The air was gentle, and the light moved slowly between the leaves. We sat down on a wooden bench under the tree. I could hear the soft sound of water and the wind in the grass. Tom looked at the sky. Do you think we'll always be friends? I thought for a moment. Yes, I said. Why not? He didn't answer. He just smiled a little. Then he took something out of his pocket. It was a small paper box. He handed it to me. What's this? I asked. Open it, he said. I opened the box. Inside, there was a small silver bracelet with a tiny heart on it. For me? I asked softly. Yes, he said. I bought it last week. I wanted to give it to you today. I felt warm inside. It's beautiful, I said. Thank you. He looked shy. You don't have to wear it if you don't want to. I will, I said quickly. I put it on my wrist and smiled. It fits perfectly. He smiled too. Good. We stayed there for a long time, not saying much. The sky slowly turned brighter, and the park started to fill with more people. I looked at the bracelet again and felt something I couldn't explain. It was still friendship, but it also felt like something new. After a while, Tom stood up. Let's go get some ice cream, he said. It's my birthday, but you can pay. I laughed. No way. It's your birthday. You pay. He laughed too. Okay, fine. But next time, it's your turn. We walked to the small ice cream shop near the gate. I watched him order chocolate and vanilla, just like always. He turned to me and smiled. To many more Sundays, he said. I smiled back. To many more Sundays. We didn't know it yet, but that Sunday would be the last one we would walk together like that. Before I continue rest of the story, please like, subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now let's continue. The next Sunday came, but that morning felt different. The sky was cloudy and gray. The air was cool and smelled like rain. I waited for Tom as always. He usually came at 10 o'clock, but by 10:30 he still wasn't there. I looked at the clock again and again. I tried not to worry, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. Finally, at almost 11, the doorbell rang. I ran to open it. Tom, I said. You're late. He looked tired. His hair was wet and his jacket was damp. He smiled weakly. Sorry, Liz. I had to help my dad this morning. That's okay, I said, but I could see that he wasn't his usual happy self. Are you all right? He nodded. Yeah, I'm fine. Just tired. We started walking to the park. The streets were quiet. Some small puddles shone on the ground after a short morning rain. Tom didn't talk much. Usually, he was full of stories, always laughing or joking. That day, he looked down most of the time. When we reached the park, the wind began to blow softly. The trees made a quiet sound. We walked near the pond, the same place where we always went. Did something happen? I asked finally. He stopped and looked at the water. My dad got a new job, he said slowly. That's good news, isn't it? I asked, trying to sound cheerful. He looked down. Yes, but it's far away, in another town. I felt my heart sink. How far? 3 hours by car, he said. We're moving next week. I stopped walking. Next week? That's so soon. He nodded. I wanted to tell you earlier, but I didn't know how. I felt quiet for a moment. The park suddenly looked colder. The wind blew harder. So this is our last Sunday? I asked. He looked at me and gave a small, sad smile. Yes. Our last one here. I didn't know what to say. My chest felt heavy, but I didn't want to cry. Tom was my best friend. He was the person I spent every Sunday with. We shared jokes, stories, and secrets. I couldn't imagine the park without him. We sat down on our usual bench under the big oak tree. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then Tom said quietly, "I'll miss this place. I'll miss you, Liz." I looked at him. "I'll miss you too," I said softly. "It won't be the same." He looked at the bracelet he gave me last week. "You're still wearing it," he said. "Of course I am," I said. "You gave it to me." He smiled a little. "Good. Then maybe you won't forget me." I looked at him, feeling a mix of sadness and warmth. "I could never forget you." We sat there in silence again. Around us, people walked by, some laughing, some playing with their dogs. The world kept moving, even though it felt like mine had stopped for a moment. After a while, I said, "When are you leaving?" "Friday," he said. "Early morning." "That's only 5 days away," I whispered. He nodded. "Yeah." We started walking again. The path was wet, and small drops of rain began to fall. I didn't care. I just wanted to stay with him for as long as possible. "Will you write to me?" I asked. "Of course," he said quickly. "Every week." "And I'll write to you too," I said. "Promise." He looked at me and smiled again, but it was a quiet smile. "You better keep that promise," he said. We reached the small ice cream shop near the park gate. Tom looked at it and said, "Let's go in, for old time's sake." Inside, it smelled like sugar and chocolate. The man behind the counter smiled. "2 ice creams again?" he asked. "Same flavors?" Tom nodded. "Chocolate for me, vanilla for her." The man laughed. "You two are always the same." We took our ice creams and sat at the small table by the window. The rain started falling harder now, hitting the glass softly. "Do you remember when we first came here?" Tom asked. "Yes," I said. "You dropped your ice cream on your shoe." He laughed. "That was the worst day." "No, it was funny," I said. "You tried to eat what was left of it." He smiled, but his eyes looked far away. "I'm going to miss this place." I wanted to say something that would make him stay, but I knew I couldn't. His family had to move. His dad needed the job. So I just said, "Maybe one day you'll come back." He looked at me. "Do you really think so?" "Yes," I said. "You'll visit. And we'll walk in the park again." He looked down at the table. "Maybe." We finished our ice creams and walked back to the oak tree. The rain stopped for a moment, and the air felt soft again. Tom reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded paper. "Here," he said. "It's for you." I took it carefully. "What is it?" "Don't open it yet," he said. "Read it when I'm gone." I looked at him. "Is it a letter?" He smiled but didn't answer. "Just promise me you'll read it later." "I promise," I said. He looked relieved. "Good." We stayed in the park until the afternoon. We didn't talk much after that. We just walked, sometimes side by side, sometimes quietly watching the ducks. I didn't want the day to end. I wanted the minutes to move slower. When we finally reached my house, Tom stopped by the gate. "I should go now," he said. "Okay." I said softly. He looked at me for a long time. Take care, Liz. You too, I said. He gave me a small smile, then turned and walked away. I stood there, watching him until he turned the corner and disappeared from view. When I went inside, the house felt very quiet. I sat on my bed and looked at the folded paper he gave me. For a long time, I just held it. Then I opened it slowly. The paper had a small drawing of the park. Under the tree, he had drawn 2 tiny figures, a boy and a girl. Under the drawing, he wrote, "For Liz, my best friend, my favorite Sunday. Tom." I felt tears fill my eyes, but I smiled. It was simple, just like him. That night, I put the paper inside a small box where I kept my favorite things. I touched the bracelet on my wrist and whispered, "Goodbye, Tom." But even as I said it, I hoped it wasn't forever. The week after Tom left felt long and quiet. The park was still there, the trees still green, the pond still calm. But everything felt different without him. I still woke up early on Sundays out of habit, but the morning air no longer felt the same. At first, I told myself that nothing had changed. I still took the same path, still walked under the same tall oak tree, but walking alone made me realize how much of that park had belonged to Tom. Every step reminded me of him. I could almost hear his laughter in the distance, soft and fading, like the echo of a song I could not forget. The first few days, I waited for a letter. I looked at the mailbox every morning before school, but there was nothing. The silence began to feel heavy. I tried not to think too much about it, but his absence stayed with me like a quiet shadow that followed me everywhere. One afternoon, I came home from school and found an envelope on the table. It had my name on it in small, neat letters. I knew that handwriting at once. My heart started to beat faster, and I sat down before opening it. Inside was a short letter written in pencil. He said his new town was much bigger than ours. The streets were full of noise and cars, and the school was different. He missed the quiet park. He missed our walks, and he missed me. He wrote that he had made new friends, but it did not feel the same. At the end, he wrote, "When I walk to school, I see a small tree near my house. It looks a bit like our oak tree. When I pass it, I think of you." I read the letter again and again. It wasn't long, but it felt like hearing his voice again for a moment. I smiled. Then I folded it carefully and placed it next to the drawing he gave me. Weeks turned into months. We wrote to each other often at first. His letters were full of stories about school, about his little sister, about his new town. I always answered. I told him about my parents, about the park, about how the ducks were still there. But slowly, the letters came less often. His last one arrived just before Christmas. In it, he said he was doing fine, that winter was cold, and that he hoped I was happy. He didn't say much more. After that, there were no more letters. Time moved on quietly. I started high school the next year. I made new friends, but none of them felt like Tom. Sometimes I walked past the park gate and thought of the times we sat there, eating ice cream and laughing about small things. I didn't stop walking in the park, though. It became a place where I could remember him without feeling sad all the time. As the seasons changed, the park changed too. In summer, the trees were full and bright. In autumn, the leaves turned gold and covered the ground like a warm carpet. In winter, the air was cold, and the pond froze a little at the edges. Every Sunday I went there, even when I had no one to walk with. I liked to sit under the oak tree and think about the things we said, the things we didn't say, and the simple moments that had once felt so ordinary, but now seemed so rare. Years passed. I grew older, taller, quieter. The bracelet he gave me became small on my wrist, but I never took it off. It had lost its shine, but I liked it that way. It looked like time, worn, soft, but still there. One spring morning when I was 16, I went to the park again. The day looked almost the same as it had 3 years earlier. The sky was blue, the air cool, the birds singing. I sat on the same bench under the same tree. For the first time, I didn't feel sad. I felt peaceful. As I sat there, I saw a family walking by. A father, a mother, and a boy about 10 years old. The boy laughed loudly and ran ahead. I watched them and smiled. It felt good to see other people making new memories in the same place where mine lived quietly. When I was about to leave, I noticed something on the ground near the bench. It was a small metal tag, shiny and new. Someone had fixed it to the side of the bench. I leaned closer and read the words engraved on it. To the park that holds our best days. For a moment, I stood still, my eyes on the small tag. I didn't know who put it there, but I smiled. Maybe it wasn't for me, but it felt like a small message from the past, a soft whisper that said it was okay to remember. When I walked home that day, I felt lighter. I no longer waited for letters. I no longer looked for old memories. I simply carried them with me, in quiet ways, in small thoughts, in the silver bracelet that still shone faintly in the sun. Years later, I left that town too. I went to another city for college. Life became busy, but sometimes, when I passed a park with trees and quiet paths, I remembered that one Sunday, the day he came early, the day we walked for the last time, the day I learned that goodbyes don't always mean endings. Some memories stay soft forever, and sometimes a simple walk in the park is all it takes to remember the kind of friendship that never truly leaves. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and subscribe to English Medium Stories. Stay with us for more classic stories in easy English.